Are you currently sitting there and you just have a startup and you're looking for a startup business loan, but you have barely any income? Like you've been struggling to actually have your first clients. You did everything and it's not working. If you are in that situation, I really want you to pay attention because into this conversation, I really want to explain to you in and out what you have to do, the clear path, the clear success formula you need to implement to make sure that you get your startup business loan with barely any income. So here's the overview I really want you to pay attention to. One thing that's really important to understand here is that when you analyze a startup business loan and you have barely any income, there are some elements you want to pay attention to. First of all, it's not just about the amount that you want, because you can get a 50 grand or 75 grand or 100 grand for that matter. This is fine, but you got to look at the length of repayment time, because see, when you have a startup, your odds of surviving the third year are pretty slim. I'm not the one saying it. It's just an official statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the SBA. In other words, you have more than 90% of startups they're actually filing for bankruptcy, and they actually disappear after the first or second or third year. So if you have a repayment window that's like 5 years or 10 years, or let's say 7 years, you got to be really careful here, okay? Which is why I always say, and our team has the data to back it up, to say, listen, you want to go for 3 years, you want to go for 2 years, don't go for 7 years and trying to really confuse the hell out of yourself. No, you are new right now. Your job is to get the funds you need to get your business from point A to point Z, okay? So you want to look for the length of repayment time. You want to look at the interest rate, okay? And the thing here is that the interest rate is important. Now, if you are a startup, you might not have you might not have competitive interest rates. You might be in double digits. That's fine anyway. On top of that, if you have a bad credit, that's even worse. Like you could probably have like a business loan around like 20% or 25%. Yeah, even more than that. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. Really appreciate having you here. We love having this kind of conversation. Mi casa y tu casa. You just make yourself comfortable here. Okay, I'm not sure my Spanish was good there, but you got the gist of it, right? So you want to look for the length of repayment time, the interest rate. Look at the repayment schedule also. Like, what is the lender asking you? Or do they want you to pay on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis or bi-weekly basis or weekly basis? There are lenders right now in this industry. They are asking you as a startup to actually pay them every single day. Like they want to see payment, they want to receive payments from you every single day. So those are things you need to think about. Now, there are some startup business lenders who want you to post collateral. So what I'm trying to say here is that you got to be clear about the type of criteria they want. Now that you have actually understood the whole options that you have, and let me just give you the steps that you need to actually take right now. If you are trying to get a startup business loan with barely any income, like you have not generated anything at all, like you're really struggling. The thing is, when we talk about startup business loan, sometimes you might be thinking you want a loan, but you don't really need a loan. Maybe you need a startup business line of credit. Like you want to have access to let's say a line of capital, so that when you need it, you can tap into it. Like you don't want to borrow like 25 grand or 50 grand all at once because you don't know what to do with it. You just want to have access to 25 or 50 grand so that if the right opportunity were to actually present itself, you can actually tap into that line of credit and use it to actually further your business, expand, buy inventory, make payroll and whatnot. Okay, so you need to evaluate what kind of loan you need, what kind of startup business loan with barely any income you need, okay? And when we talk about this, the possibilities are endless. Why? Because you're not just talking about banks anymore. Like back in the days, I'm talking 10, 20 years ago, you were speaking, like if you had a startup and you wanted to have like a startup business loan, you probably needed to talk only to banks and credit unions. Nowadays, and even the Wall Street Journal said it yesterday in one article, they said, you have a constellation of players from from online lenders to alternative lenders. You have traditional lenders, okay? You have lending marketplaces. You have such as you have those matchmakers. You have the Lendios of the world, the NBC, the national business capitals of the world. So it just it is a fantastically vibrant loan marketplace rather for startup businesses that which have no income or barely any income. Okay, so when we talk about the types of loan that you need, you can think about online term loans, you can think about business lines of credit, you can think about SBA 7A loans, you can think about SBA micro loans, you can think about collateral loans. Yeah, collateralized loans. Collateralized loans are also called asset-based financing. So you do have choices here. So I want you to really open up your mind and say, listen, you don't have to actually be desperate here, because there are possibilities. So the first thing I want you to do here is to actually evaluate what kind of loan you need. Second thing, I want you to check your business and personal credit score. So we're just going back to the drawing board here. We're just trying to make sure that, hey, listen, you have barely any income. That's fine, okay. But hopefully, at least your credit score is decent, because you can't tell me, listen, that I have a crappy credit score, and I'm not making any income anyway. And on top of that, I don't have any money, boss. If you have this triple sort of downer, it's going to be very complicated. Okay, so you got to have at least one that goes in your favor here. Okay, I mean, work with me here. Work with me. Have some skin in the game. Have some skin in the game. If you're asking for a startup business loan with barely any income, and you just happen to have like a FICO score around 350, and you're telling me you are broke, whew, boss, this is not where things like it wouldn't work. And a lender is not going to be willing to work with you, because they're trying to cover their ass too. They are covering their ass. You're covering your ass because you want to have a low APR. You want to have a massive startup business loan. Okay, you have no income, but the lender is trying to cover their ass too. So think about that. Okay, and then you want to gather and prepare the required documents. You want to actually have a conversation with the lender and ask them what kind of documents they need. Because if you have a startup, you are in a specific sort of situation, right? Because operationally, you haven't proven yourself yet. Like, you haven't actually had like 1 or 2 years of full operational, I would say, performance, so that a lender or an investor, for that matter, can actually judge whether or not you are potent, you are powerful, operationally speaking. That's number one. Number two, you have not proven yourself to the marketplace itself also. Because see, when you're a startup, you are actually competing with other players. And those players, they are checking you out. They want to see whether you are good or not, right? And you're not the only one in this industry. So when you gather and prepare the required documents, make sure that you double check with the lender to make sure that they are fine with whatever documents you are presenting to them. This is really important, because this is going to help you make sure that this is going to help you qualify for the startup business loan. The next thing I want you to do here, boss, is to actually go back to the drawing board, to the proverbial drawing board, and say, listen, okay, I have researched maybe 10 business lenders, 10 startup business lenders, okay, and I have my startup has barely any income. It's been 6 months, it's been 7 months, it's been 8 months, it's been 12 months. Okay, I'm still considered a startup, right? I'm looking for a business loan, but I have nothing. I have I'm having losses, which is normal, by the way, though, because when you're a startup, you have more expenses than revenue. I mean, ask Uber, and they've had losses. They have millions of dollars of losses for many, many years. I'm not even sure that they are generating revenue right now, but there's another topic here. What I want to say here is that when researching and comparing lenders, make sure that you pay attention to a few things. For example, look at the APR. Look at the fee and other costs. Okay, you want to look at the lender reputation. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you to this topic, the conversation here, because I want to contextualize the convo. I want you to really understand what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about how to get a startup business loan with barely any income for a massive amount, like how to be approved massively. Okay. And so the thing here is that number one, you want to evaluate what kind of loan you need. Number two, you want to check your business and personal credit scores. Number three, you want to gather and prepare required documents. Number four, you want to research and compare lenders. This is really important because this is going to position you the right way when it comes to talking to the right lenders. And when we talk about right lenders, what is who is the better lender for you? Is it the bank? Well, it depends on the relationship you have cultivated with that bank over the last 5 years, because your startup might be new, but you as a person, you as an individual, you probably have a relationship with that bank for the last few years. Or do you want to talk to the credit union? Or would you rather just have a conversation with an alternative lender? Or would you talk to a lending marketplace? Or would you talk to a P2P, a peer-to-peer, a P2P platform like Lending Club, for instance? Okay, so you do, again, what we love here is that when we talk about startup business loans, you are able to not only navigate your monetary situation on the personal side, but also on the business side, because the lender is looking at both. Like they're trying to see whether or not you are a safe bet. Okay, the notion of safe bet is really important for the lender. Let me give you a few pro tips here that we like in terms of helping you understand the things a little further. If you are a startup and you have barely any income, it's a great idea to actually start looking for a startup business loan so that you can actually beef up your operations and start generating revenue. As long as the business model is sound, as long as the marketing strategy is sound, as long as you have the resources to execute, I mean the human talent, the people to execute your strategy, you should be able to generate revenue pretty soon. But the thing is, as with everything in life, you need money, right? You need money to actually launch your business, to actually bring your business to another level, and this requires money. Now, one thing I want to say here is that you need to understand a startup business loan can really help you. Okay, you are able to buy furniture, you can buy computers, you can buy other equipment, you can purchase or lease office space, you can actually pay utilities and other overhead expenses, you can purchase inventory, you can hire employees. The reason why I don't need to tell you what you are going to spend the money on, but what I'm telling you here is that when you get a startup business loan, use the money strategically. Don't use the money on just some kind of foolish goal, even though you think the goal might actually bring money to you. It's just safer to spend the cash on the stuff that will keep your startup operationally sound. Okay, this is important because, again, there is a concept called going concern in accounting, and going concern really accounting and law, by the way. And going concern really means that, hey, listen, are you going to be around 3 or 4 months from now? Are you going to be around 3 or 4 years from now? Are you going to be around at all 10 years from now? What is your going concern ability? Okay, what are the chances that your startup might actually file for bankruptcy 1 month from now or 10 days from now, for that matter? So those are things that the lender is constantly analyzing before actually approving your startup business loan, especially if you have barely any income. Now, one thing I want to say here, I want to share with you in the bonus category. I'm very happy that you're still around here. And I want to share with you in the bonus category something very interesting. And the thing here is that when you analyze like everything I'm talking about, when you analyze it pretty clearly, you will see that there are options. And when we talk about there are options, there are indeed options. But if you are looking for a startup business loan, you have barely any income, please, I think I started this conversation today by giving you options. Don't think that you only need term loans. Because a lot of time when people think about startup business loans, they're thinking about startup business term loans. But the thing is, there is a large typology of business loans for startups that goes from business lines of credit to SBA loans. That goes from micro loans to short-term startup business loans. From startup business equipment financing to merchant cash advances. Okay, from invoice factoring to business credit cards, for example. Like, you don't really need a loan. You might actually be good with a credit card. Who knows? You might even use personal loans and financing abilities like personal lines of credit. You can actually tap into, your own resources, like your entourage, for example. If you happen to have friends and family who have deeper pockets, not deeper pockets, but you have something, you can try crowdsourcing. You can try grants. You can try a lot of things. Like the thing is that, don't think that you only have to go through this startup business loan process to get the funds you need. You can get the cash, for instance, through grants. Like if your credit score is really bad and you really have tried everything and you're not getting the loan that you need, try having a grant. Money is money, whether it is a grant or whether it is a loan. The bottom line here is that you will have the cash to develop your business and to bring your business from a point A to point Z. All right. So this is something you need to think about. And another thing I want you to think about deeply when it comes to analyzing your strategy is to make sure you ask yourself, okay, I'm doing merchant cash advance. I'm doing invoice factoring. I'm doing business credit cards. What do I really need? Okay. And based on what I need, like, let me give you an example. If you take a merchant cash advance, you are getting money right away. But the problem is you need to have some electronic sales to qualify for a merchant cash advance. So if you're telling me that you have barely any income, that means you're not making any sales. So you will not be able to qualify for invoice financing, invoice factoring, or MCAs, which means you're going to have to resort to other tools like credit cards, for example, to actually survive, at least in the short run, because you got to survive in the short run to win the race in the long run. Let me give you our picks, so we close this conversation on a positive note, okay? So when we talk about startup business loans with barely any income, there are a lot of pros and a few cons that you need to be aware of. And if you want to apply for the right startup loan, it's important to understand that those requirements are changing all the time. Let me give you the pros of a typical startup business loan with or without income. So taking on some form of debt allows you to preserve your personal savings. That's if, of course, your startup is totally divorced from your personal life in terms of the expenses, in terms of the operational stability, in terms of the address. Those are little things, but they are really important. And you may get immediate access to the funding you need to start or grow your business. And you don't need to sell part of your business to investors, so you'll retain complete control. So those are the pros of a startup business loan, okay, with or without income. What about the cons here? Well, most lenders require some time in business, making startup loans elusive for brand new startups. But this is something that is across the board, but you can actually get a loan from your specific lender, from your specific bank if you apply there, okay? And repaying business debt may be difficult if you don't have like stable revenue, which is an important, because you need money to repay your debt, right? And the third detriment that we have found is that loans available to new businesses may come with higher interest rates and fees. Now you might be sitting there saying, listen, those cons that you just mentioned, I really don't care. Like, I really need my money. I really need to expand. I need to develop, right? I don't really care what, because once I start making the money, I should be able to pay the loan real fast. But and I'll be saying this could be a problem if you don't have the right strategy, because it's not just about getting the loan. It's about having a repayment plan in place so that you are able to repay the debt ASAP, or at least within a reasonable time period. Okay, those are things I really want you to pay attention to. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate that. And I want to quickly recap to this conversation. So I was just talking to you about how to get a startup business loan with barely any income. So I give you the overview, and then I share with you the steps, like evaluate what kind of loan you need, check your business and personal credit scores. You want to gather and prepare the required documents. You want to research and compare lenders. Then I give you a few pro tips in terms of how startup businesses can, how the loans can help. And I give you a few bonuses in terms of the different types of financing arrangements you can have if you want to survive with your startup. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.